Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is the Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, just after 9 p.m. The Steelers played a game last weekend. They're playing another game this weekend. Where else would you rather be? And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Rich, how is it going tonight?
Oh, hey, we're in the Steelers.
What do you got to do? What do you got to do? Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. It's been so long. and I guess we'll count it, but we'll just breathe in the sweet smell of victory.
That's right. Even though it's the preseason, you know what? If it's a chance to breathe it in, do it.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Why not? Okay. I mean, I know. People could still say that we're
about practice.
Yeah. They're practice games, but you know what? They're still a game. The clock is running. The officials are blowing the whistles. There is a different team in a different colored uniform out there. We experienced that. I'm losing my days of the week. Friday night, it was glorious. It was. But before that, we have a couple other things that we got to cover before we really dive into the game that was on Friday. First, I don't know if you know this, Rich, because this just happened, I think within the last 2 hours. They had the Steelers had their home run derby at camp tonight. Okay. And now we have a two-time home run derby champ, back-to-back champion, one Kenneth Shane Pickett. He is the home run derby champ again at Steelers training camp. You don't have some extensive breakdown for that one for me?
No. If he was beating Boz and kicking field goals, then maybe we could talk.
Gotcha. Well, hey, remember, this is important, you know.
Let me just say one thing.
Okay.
He ain't Bo.
He ain't Bo. Well, you got to remember, this is just one of those traditions that they've had for a while. I'm pretty sure it's just under Coach Tomlin. I know BTR won it most years, but there was a year in there where he didn't, and I know I'm going to mess up the year. I know for sure I'm going to mess up the year, so I'm trying to stall a little bit in order to try to make sure that I don't mess up the year, because there was a year in there where instead a rookie won it, a sixth-round draft pick back in 2017, when one long snapper Colin Holba won the home run derby that they had at training camp. Nice. So it hasn't always been the quarterbacks. It's also been the long snappers. But just thought I'd throw that out there. But the other thing we got to talk about, and it's all Steelers. It's all Steelers. Rich, how was your time at training camp last Wednesday?
It was nice to not be, basically poured on by rain this year, so that was kind of nice. Got up there early, got through some of the booths, got into the field. Some guys were actually out messing around a little bit on the field even before lunchtime. George Pickens, I believe, a couple wide receivers were out just doing some basically hands drills. It was a good time. Then it was into, then we always guess it, who are we going to see hit the field first? Okay, Cam Hayward's always near the top, but the first player onto the field was Joey Porter Jr. And let me tell you what, the look on that guy's face looked like a guy that running through his head was, what do you mean I wasn't a first-round pick? I'll show you. I'm serious. That's the look he had on him.
And he was out there and fine and everything for the practice you were at, right?
Yes.
So he really did pull, not to the same degree, but he really did pull a Calvin Austin where he got hurt the non-open practice the day before the game because he was injured and couldn't play on Friday night, but he was fine on Wednesday. So that was interesting. But you got to see him and everything.
I mean, he was first one on the field by minutes. I think it was 3 or 4 minutes later than Gunnar O hit the field. Followed very closely by Cam Hayward, there's Cam Hayward. He's lugging all this stuff down to the field, carrying cones and a agility ladder and all, all this stuff down because Cam and Larry O's they could have been done. They did more work before practice even started than some guys probably do the whole time practice was going on.
And Larry O was fine for that practice as well, right?
Yes.
He was another one that got dinged up in the non-open practice. I mean, he's still in a walking boot, but I mean that could have just been one of those. He could have just been stepped on.
Nothing wrong with his foot the day we were there.
Yeah,
I mean, he and Cam were doing some crazy work. First, it was some agility stuff. Then they actually got down and Cam had cones set up, and they were actually cones set up like offensive lineman gaps, and they were actually working on their communication and I would call it tandem footwork on pass rushes on different things. I mean, Cam, they were talking serious, and this was all happened pretty close to where I was, so that was pretty neat to see. Actually, those two guys just warming up / working out for practice.
Yeah, I read your knee-jerk reaction article to your day at camp, so therefore I know these various things that you looked at. Anything else you want to highlight from your time there?
I spent less time, like after 7 shots when they broke into stuff. Kyle and the 2 basketball coaches from my college we were with, they were into watching the skill players because they were there on the field closest. But out one level was where the line was working, mainly the offensive line was working on some of their zone blocking schemes. I was having some fun watching that and really starting to see guys work together, hitting the zones. I thought it was real neat how that one broke down first. They're working on things with the center and 2 guards, so just the 3 guys on the line. And eventually then they would break it down. Then they broke it down into sides. You had the right side, which would include a tight end, and then you worked the left side for some snaps. So just the things they were working on, you knew they were really trying to get down to nitty-gritty of working on those things. And for me, then it was great to see some of that stuff on Friday.
Yeah. So you actually saw what you were seeing at training camp transpire on the field Friday night.
Yeah, so there for that one, I had the binoculars out, totally focused in on watching some of that line stuff just because I was wanting to see what they were working on. Certain things with camp, well, I'll tell you what, just more of the fun stuff. Isaac Sayamalu, oh my goodness, he just looks. He comes walking downhill. That guy just looks like a mean dude. I know he's not a mean dude, but man, he comes down. He just looks all business. I'm like, I would not want to cross that guy.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there's one other thing that you had talked about that I'm like, yeah, I can see that. You said it was kind of frustrating how many fans weren't paying attention to practice.
Oh, there were a good many people there that day. And people are walking around. They had no interest in what was going on the field. And it was annoying because they were constantly in the way of us who were trying to watch. So that was a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's like.
But what you going to do?
I guess the only reason they went to training camp is to see if they could get their autographs and things like that. So.
I guess. And there's. That's not where I'd go to try to get autographs, honestly, because there's not a lot of autograph stuff going on. At the end of practice, Kenny Pickett and who was it? I can't even remember who that person came over and we're signing some autographs for some kids. And that was about it. So.
Yeah. So compared to last year, better experience, worse experience, about the same. Hey, remember we talked about it Tuesday night and people were saying, oh, they're not going to be in pads. I'm like, well, I wouldn't be shocked if they are, but maybe they aren't. And they were in pads.
They were. Yep.
So that was new for me this year. You weren't in pads because you were there during the acclimation period. So yeah, anything, different between the 2 years.
Yeah. It was nice. I'm not sure if I'm going to go again, honestly.
Mhm.
Now I've gone a couple times. It ends up being a long day for just
2 hours of
2 hours of
practice.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember,
We talking about practice.
That's right.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, for some people, this is their best chance to see the Steelers. And I think it's exciting. Like I said, I've never been to Latrobe, but I've gone to Steelers practice before when they did one. It was before COVID. So I'm trying to remember how old my kids were. It's been a while, but it was where they did one at Heinz Field. And it was Heinz Field at the time. That it was a special family night practice. It was an evening practice that they were there. I went, and what was nice about that is because it's the stadium. It's one field. They had to fit everything into one field of what they were doing, so nothing was too far away to see. They didn't have the luxury of space. So
here I'm going to bring this up. So Bob Ayer said, and that's why I don't go to games in person. Too many ignorant people. You know what? Games in person, not so bad, because honestly, folks that aren't really wanting to watch the game as much, they get out of their seats and get down on the concourse, and they're out of the way. But at camp, that option really isn't there. So
yeah, and I mean, like, it really all depends on where you are in the stadium when you're there watching a game. I mean, the people in the season ticket holders in my area are people that are there watching the game. Now, sometimes the seats next to me, especially if it's the people who actually have the seats, which they rarely go to the games, they're there with a lot of kids and they're in and out, and they have like season tickets at 4 different spots, and they're constantly switching seats throughout the game and everything. I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, normally I get to my seat and I don't leave until the game's over. I think
same here.
There was one time in one preseason game that I missed a couple snaps because I had to take my daughter out to the bathroom, and I was just like, "You're making me miss my first ever snaps," and and it was the preseason. But that's just me. That's what I do. But that's not everyone has the same viewing experience. The thing that I always think is interesting, and I know we're going to get to the Friday night's game because I really want to talk about that. But what I find interesting is the people that don't show up to their seats until halfway through the first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that gets me. And I'm like, because there'll be times if like you're there and I'm like, oh, hey, you know, there's some open, and then next thing you know, the people, I'm like, there's 2 open seats right next to me, until people show up partway through the first quarter. So I know sometimes it's because they're out tailgating and everything else. I'm like, I don't tailgate because I'm there to watch the game. I'm not there, for that. I'm there to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would rather be in the stadium watching them kick, watching them warm up, watching everything else there than be anywhere else, because to me the experience it isn't that. It's watch the game. But not everyone does it the same. But I'm just like, I remember, oh man, it was that Tampa Bay game. I guess it would be 9 years ago now. I think it was 20. I'm pretty sure it was 2014. Yeah, because 2015 is when I got my season tickets. It was the year before, because I wasn't in my season ticket seats yet. And it was this very intoxicated young lady who came into the game. About 10 minutes into the game, the Steelers were down 14-0. Now, they came back in that game, and then they lost it in the last 10 seconds. But it's just like, and she's like, what's going on? What are they doing? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you had tickets to come in and see what was happening. It's not my job to catch you up on everything that you missed.
Right. I'm not recapping you. You could have been here, should have been here. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just surprised. And you would think, like, for those of you in the live chat, I know there's a lot of you that have said before, I'm not, and feel free to kind of share your experience there, that as much as you've wanted to, you've either never been able to make it to Pittsburgh for a Steelers game, or you've only done it, a handful of times in your life, maybe once or twice. when you have that experience, you don't want to miss any of it. You want to make sure you're there for the whole thing and all that. And that's sometimes where I say that, man, Steelers fans, especially those that, they've got their season tickets handed down to them for forever. They kind of take the Steelers for granted. They don't even really necessarily are all that into the game. But there's all kinds of different Steelers fans. But we've talked about this stuff. You ready to talk? I want to hear your thoughts on Friday night. You ready for that?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So. Okay. Well, see, here you go. Afton, maybe you have to wave to her. See if you can. I'm in town for my first ever. I don't know if her and Kathy are already in town or if they will be on Saturday, but I know that they'll be at the game on Saturday. So
me too.
Yep. And Rich will be there as well.
Renee and I are rolling in Friday late afternoon and going to spend the weekend.
Oh, good for you guys.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So ready to go. But let's talk about Friday.
Yeah. All right, Rich.
Because it was good.
Yeah. Okay, first question. First question about Friday. Would you call it overall a good performance, a great performance, or an performance?
Okay.
Regardless of score.
I have an entirely different word.
Okay.
Please. I would call Friday a successful performance.
You know what? That's a great way to say it.
Okay. We basically got exactly what we wanted to see and get out of the first team offense. I mean, you were like, I'd love them to just go down the field, score a touchdown. Went down the field, scored a touchdown. Only incompletion from Kenny Pickett, one he had to throw away due to the rush.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And, three solid catches by DJ on that. You had a catch by Muth. You had the touchdown to Pickens.
Yes. And, wait a second. What was it again?
Pickens!
That never gets old, ever.
That will never get old. That might be one of the best calls.
Yeah.
That I got right now. That's a good button there. So, defensively, we were missing a lot of first team guys defensively when you really stop and look at it. But I thought defensively they played very well. Cam just playing a tiny little bit. Cam not playing, Lario not playing. Actually was probably pretty good to get some of those other defensive line guys got some more reps, and they all played really well. Was tough seeing Keanu Benton go out with that ankle.
Oh man, honestly, did he blow up that fourth down play?
Because honestly, I thought he played very well up until that point. So, somebody brought up, Brian Miswa brought up on Facebook, said over 100 total yards for CA3. Calvin Austin third on the long ball from Mason Rudolph. That was, just something else. Good to see. Was nice to see some throws in the middle of the field. I mean, there was just so many things that was good to see. Were there things that I saw that need to be worked on? Yeah, there was. But those things didn't overshadow a lot of the good plays. And to me, that's what makes that a successful evening.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll bring up a question, and that is, did Kendrick Green just play himself off the roster in that game Friday night? He might have. That one series was maybe the worst series of football he could have asked for.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was bad.
I took him off my roster. And honestly, I hate to have to do this to you, Brian. He only had 96 yards. He had 73 receiving and 23 rushing. I don't think he had wait a second. He wasn't back there at all for any kick returns, I'm pretty sure.
They were all Jordan Bird.
Jordan Bird and technically Anthony McFarland was back there for one
back
on a kickoff.
On kickoffs, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, it was on 4 touches. 2 catches, 2 carries. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay that it was only a 24-yard average instead of 25. That's all right. But no, that CA3, that was that. And he didn't even really play it in the second half,
Yeah.
did he?
He had a few snaps in the first half, but not many.
Yeah. Kathy wants to know which one of us said a first drive score would be a great sign.
That was Dave.
I was going to say, I know I said it, but I wouldn't have been shocked if you did too.
No, we both said we wanted to see a first drive score, but you wanted this. You specifically talked about that first drive touchdown and how that would be setting a good precedent for the entire season.
Yes, because
I hate. Yes, it burns me to give credit where credit's due to my baby brother. But I will.
Yeah, and Tyler W says he puts $2 into the tip chart. Thank you very much, Tyler. Says Benton was his biggest happy surprise. I was not surprised by Benton. Let's just say this: I was relieved that you saw in a game what we had been hearing about in training camp.
Yes.
So that's honestly that's some of the biggest things you got to think about in these preseason games. Am I going to get to see on the screen what people have been saying has been happening on the practice field?
Yeah, and actually, it didn't surprise me too much from Benton because our day at camp, that guy does just what I said not long after the draft when we were talking about him, and that he just wreaks havoc.
Yeah,
it just seems, I mean, I almost want to say, the guy plays like a Tasmanian devil.
Yeah. But that's what you want on the defensive line. You don't have to make the tackles. You don't have to make the sacks. You don't have to do anything else. You have to make the offensive linemen more worried about you than they are about getting to the guy behind you.
Yeah, he's a disruptor.
Yeah. And if they don't worry enough about him, then you make them pay.
Yep. So, all right, I got to hold you to what you said before we came on the air, and that is you need to take your
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and break. Now we're not done talking about last week. We're not. We're not. We're going to hit that some more, but we're going to go ahead and make sure we get our break in now, because if not, we're going to take it too close to the end. So if you're with us here on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, we'll be back in a couple seconds. And if you're with us here on the audio side, stick around for these important messages. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we are back, and I hope you enjoyed those messages. We have a special deal going on right now with mybookie.com. For those of you that are here on the live side, maybe check out the audio or whatever and hear what's going on with what we have going on with MyBookie. All right, Rich. So that was the first team. We kind of just covered the first team. I do want to say this about the defense, though. There were a couple guys that only played the first series. Alex Highsmith, Levi Wallace. They got 3 snaps.
Yep.
And no passes. Alex Highsmith did not have a chance to rush the quarterback. Levi Wallace did not have to cover anybody on the outside. And then you had Cam and TJ and Minka and Larry O and DeMonte KZ and Joey Porter Jr., all for various reasons not playing. The defense, the offense had everybody, right? I mean, they didn't really use Najee other than to dump off one pass to him, but the defense, about half of them weren't out there. I mean, I said someone played 3 snaps. I almost messed up one. Elandon Roberts played 2. First and second down, came out on third down. Was back. I'm pretty sure he was back in for fourth down when they jumped off sides, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't. That's a speculation. I would have to go back and verify that. But the defense. What more did you want out of that? Of what parts of the first unit that were out there? I mean, other than Tampa actually going for it on fourth down and them stopping them there. That's the only thing that could have made that better, rather than have the penalty force the punt. I mean, my goodness, they didn't give them a first down. 0 for 1 third down conversion. So to me, the offense moving the ball, efficiently. I mean, now granted, they were faced with a 3rd and 10 and converted it. You don't want to have a lot of 3rd and longs that you have to convert. I think they had 2 third downs on that drive, the offense. They converted the 3rd and 10 to Deontay Johnson, and the other was a 3rd and 8 that was the touchdown to Pickens.
Correct.
So other than that, I mean, 10 plays, only 2 third downs, ended with the touchdown. There. Defense, they didn't get to see a pass, though. But I'm trying to remember where I said this. It might have been on the post-game show. You think that since one Baker Mayfield is very familiar with the Pittsburgh Steelers due to his time in the AFC North, that perhaps they said, you know what? We'll just hand the ball off for the whole first series and then see if they rest more of their guys, and then we'll actually have them draw back. I don't know if they did or not, but it wouldn't have been a bad strategy at all.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
It does. So, yep.
All right. So, moving on to some of the, what I want to say.
Yeah.
I don't even like to say second team, but just your other guys that were not first team guys.
Yeah. Well, and in order to do this, and we've kind of, I didn't specifically bring up the topic, but we're kind of doing this as we go. So I want to, one last thing to kind of cover the first team guys is we're looking back, and it's not like we're previewing the next game. I mean, yeah, they play the Bills, but they're still just nameless gray faces when it comes to the preseason, especially, maybe week 3, you do a little bit of planning for your opponent. But what from last week do you want to see built upon to have a good or better performance this week? Let's go ahead and wrap a bow on the first team before we get into those other guys. I mean, what more could you really ask for this week other than more?
More reps.
Yeah.
That's it. They just need some more reps.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about.
But as successful as they were, one drive touchdown. Well, first it was one defensive drive, 3 and out, one offensive drive touchdown. Then it wasn't the starters anymore. Most starters. What you can't ask them to do 3 drives in this game with those units and get the exact same results again, can you?
No.
Okay.
It's not what I'm expecting. But
yeah.
That's why you're like, well, what are you expecting moving forward for this game? That's why the only thing I'm expecting to see is the first team guys play more than one series each. So
yeah.
And the other thing, don't get hurt.
Don't get hurt. Well, we know that. Yeah. Play more
and don't get hurt.
Don't get hurt.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing they can improve on, because I mean there were some injuries in the game. We mentioned about Keanu Benton, but he's described still as day to day. I have a feeling we won't see him on Saturday, but yeah. So that's what I want to see. I want to see more. It doesn't have to be the near perfection you got out of the first drive of each 2 last game, because that would just be an unreal expectation. Because also, I feel that they're going up against a much more quality opponent, and we'll probably see more starters than they did on Friday.
Yes, probably.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So now you're ready to go. We can move on. We can move on down the line to maybe some of the other guys, or however you want to cover it. Some of the it might not be necessarily just be players that, you think they're not going to play or can start or contribute much. No, but they were playing beyond the first series still. Like I'm even thinking of like a Quan Alexander. That doesn't mean that it can't be a starter or can't be a key contributor on defense, but he was out there much longer than everyone else. And some of those types of players.
Right. Let me just say about him. That guy's quick. He's quick and just has a real good nose for the ball.
Yeah. I can't wait till they change his number after everything, because I said, first of all, first I was worried it was a safety. Then I was getting flashbacks of Mark Barron. When you see that number 26, that's just not what you're expecting from your inside linebacker. So
I kept thinking, why is Aunt Mac playing defense?
yeah, and it's like it's almost like he almost looks small. Is he? My question is he really that small, or does he just look small because he's wearing a 26?
I think it's a little bit of the two.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of the two. But speaking of 26, the other person I was quite impressed with was Anthony McFarland. I thought the 26s for the Steelers on both sides of the football had pretty good games.
Yeah. And see, now I still report the PFF scores because that's one of those things I look at. I'm going to say it now. I say it so many times. Remember, PFF, their scores, they're an opinion. They are not objective. They are subjective. It is the opinion of those watching, but they do watch every player on every snap. But Anthony McFarland, he didn't score as high because he had a really bad pass blocking score. Other than that, I thought he had a real solid game and kind of separated himself as the line for the drop-off in the running back depth chart might now be behind him and not in front of him.
Correct.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
It made sense to me.
All right. So that he might be closer to the other two than to the ones behind him. So much so you got to remember, Steelers just, since the last game, they've done a different inside linebacker because Chappelle Russell went on IR. They've done two different cornerback switches out. One was due to injury. One was just a release. And then today they also did a running back where they swapped running backs off the roster. Well, the cornerbacks might have been. I can't remember exactly yesterday, today. One might have been announced yesterday, one today, but the running back was today as well. So those are some position groups. But when you look at those other running backs, I really do think Anthony McFarland, he's not – I don't see him being pushed for the third running back spot. I say the only question is it Anthony McFarland, or are they not even going to bother to keep three? That's to me the question right now. So I'm glad you brought that one up. Let's see. I got an interesting one for you.
Okay.
Let's talk tight end.
We got 4 of them.
And are you counting Connor Hayward?
No, technically, I guess we got 5 of them.
I was going to say, if you count Connor Hayward as tight end, they actually got 5 because Rodney
and not
Williams
just 5,
has been
but you got 5 guys that honestly could make the run.
Yeah.
You couldn't complain if they were on the roster. I mean, it's a good problem to have and a bad problem to have.
Yeah, it is, because to me, when it really comes down to it, it's what does the player offer that you can't get somewhere else? And that's what I'm still asking now for Zach Gentry because of Darnell Washington. And does Zach Gentry give you enough of what else you need from a tight end, which I thought, before the draft, absolutely it was smart for the Steelers to bring back Gentry. You don't have to have a big dynamic playmaker. I know people were arguing in the live chat. They're like, he can't be your TE1 if Freiermuth goes down. I'm like, he's not. Connor Hayward would be. But now you don't even have to worry about that because you got Darnell Washington. And I thought he did great on special teams. I thought he did great when he had a chance to be out there. And there's been good reports that, they're like, wow, this Rodney Williams, if it wasn't for the Steelers already kind of being overloaded at tight end, he would really be making a push to make the roster. So I can't hear you right now.
Williams on the day at camp. I think he actually had to play the day. Now we had.
That's right. You were there for that, right?
We had George Pickens make another George Pickens catch during seven shots, but late in the day on the goal line and the red zone situations, he made a catch off a double deflection. He is falling to the ground. The ball was double tipped, and he was still able to come up with the catch. And he's a big guy. I mean, to see a big guy with hands like that was pretty impressive in concentration. When going to the ground, because you know what it's like. You're a big guy. You know it's like going to the ground as a big guy. I mean, why do little toddlers why aren't they ever hurt when they fall down? Well, they don't fall very far.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a big guy going down to the ground and was still able to, off a double deflected football, keep his concentration on it and make the catch. It was pretty neat. That happened right in front of us at training camp that day. It was impressive.
Nice. So, So I think the Steelers, that was a position group that many weren't worried about going into training camp. And it was even more, I mean, who would have even thought we would have even been mentioning Rodney Williams? I mean, to me, if he could even get there, he's a lock for the practice squad, if nothing else, because he's been doing.
I won't be surprised if he's poached.
Yeah. Or claimed off waivers if he's released.
Yes.
Or grabbed there. Yep. I would not be surprised.
Even within a week or two poached off the practice squad.
Yes, because he and everything. But see, but you just never know exactly what people are looking for. And I'm not really in tune with what's going on with tight end around the league right now. I'm really not. I'm so focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where I get my league news or what's going on and with stuff around the league. If it wasn't for the call sheet by Kevin Smith's podcast, Coach KT on Fans First Sports Network, I don't know that I'd really know much going on around the league. He did one last week, and it was about some of the quarterback battles, some for starting and some for backups. I'm like, I don't know that I could really name you anything. and so it was really good to get that from him. But anything else you want to, I mean, someone asked earlier, what was your thought on the Quan Alexander, I want to call it roughing, but I don't know what personal foul, leading with the helmet, whatever.
By the letter of the rule, it was the correct call. I've thought, though, for several years that by the letter of the rule, it's a bogus call.
I tweeted out that, or X'd out.
Tweeted because it's not Twitter anymore.
Twixted. That's what it is. Twixted. That the NFL has basically made the rules in a way of so many different things that if you hit someone hard enough, they can call you for a penalty, one way or the other.
Yep.
So in other words, the real penalty is hitting too hard. Because if you don't hit the person hard, now, unless it's quarterback, because sometimes with that, you don't have to do anything to get that one. But if you hit someone really hard on the field of play, they will find a reason to throw a flag and can say it's either the helmet, they could say hitting low, they could say hitting high, there's so many different things. It is extremely difficult to really hit a player hard and have it be 100% legal by the NFL standards now. So pretty much they throw a flag for hitting too hard. Sherry Richards says, you know what Jack Lambert would say about that call. Yes, yeah. So, good. That's good stuff. But someone had asked that earlier, about that. What other position groups you want to hit? I thought Duke Dawson was looking all right until he got hurt, and now he's on IR.
I thought Mark Robinson was having a pretty good game. An inside linebacker.
Yeah.
I really felt like he was showing that growth from year one to year two, like I was hoping to see from him. You can tell he really has spent some time trying to work on some things and make himself a better player. It was good to see.
Yeah. Hey, I want to bring up something. This is from Eric Cole. This goes back to Quan Alexander real quick, and then we'll jump forward to Mark Robinson. He said he kind of dropped his head on that hit. But who was it? It might have been Tim Benz or someone. I saw somebody. It was someone on X that might have been Nick Faribault. So someone like that had said, you know what? If he doesn't drop his head a little bit, he hits him in the face mask.
Correct.
And then he's going to get a penalty for that.
Right. So it was like, didn't matter what he was going to do there.
Yeah.
They could throw the flag on him. And it's like, the only thing I guess he'd have been allowed to do and not get a flag was, fall down on the ground and totally miss the guy.
Yeah. Yep. So, and I don't know if you know this, but that the official that was officiating Friday nights, that's the guy that works with my wife.
No.
Yeah, they work in the same company. She's emailed with him before about stuff. So yeah, he's the guy they've talked about in the past about being a rocket scientist. He's not really rocket. He works at a lab with rocket scientists, but I don't think that's his exact thing that he does. But yeah, with that officiating crew. But you got to remember, though, it was their first game. Well, actually, it was their second. I think they did the Hall of Fame game. I think they're the same crew that did the Hall of Fame game. But to me, but that's what the NFL's done. They've taken to where you could take a call like that. You're like, really? You're going to call that? But by the letter of the law of the rule, you can throw a flag on that, because really they could throw a flag on any hard hit. So Mark Robinson, I don't want to miss what you had said about Mark Robinson. The way I would sum up Mark Robinson was he did what we thought he could do in the run game, and he wasn't a huge liability in the pass game like he was last year.
No, I noticed he was getting to the right places at the right times in the passing game. And he was really trying to make sure he didn't get out of position. And I wasn't seeing him out of position in the pass game. That was nice to see.
Yep.
So
yeah, that was another good one. We hit some defense. I'm trying to bounce back and forth from defense to offense. We already mentioned Calvin Austin III, but he was more with the later group. Anything with the receivers? I mean, I thought that Cody White did not live up to what he was. They say he's done a camp. Some people, it kind of reminds me with running. When I ran cross country, I didn't when it came to the races, to the meets, I didn't have an extra gear that I hit. I was a great runner in practice. I just wasn't any better when it came to an actual race.
Yeah. And
to me, that almost seems like Cody White. He can do everything he can in practice, but when he gets in a game, it seemed like it's almost too big for him. I don't think that Hakeem Butler did anything to really stand out. Miles Boykin didn't really have anything to stand out. I don't really know what to make of some of the stuff at wide receiver.
No, and like I said, outside of CA3 and Anthony McFarland, and honestly, I got to give credit to Mason Rudolph on the deep throw to CA3. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the part of Mason Rudolph's game that he was touted for when he came into the league. So you can see he still got it. He throws a nice deep ball. He really does. That ball was on the money. But there wasn't near as much, I would say, that I noticed on offense as I did on defense.
Yes, because the position I want to talk about next on defense is the other linebacking position, the outside linebackers.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting. I'm not surprised that Quincy Roche was in there early. But the Steelers gave premier playing time, preferential playing time to the undrafted free agent David Perales and not Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig didn't play the second half. Perales was in there the second series. And Herbig did what people said that he was doing in practice. He tore up. He did. So if you want to know what I want to see to improve from the first preseason performance to this one, is I want to see Nick Herbig doing that in the first half, because I think he can. They just didn't have him out there. That's what I want to see.
I would agree. Yeah. Which then talking to him also had to bring up, because the one time, he and so I put my knee-jerk reaction that, Nick Herbig and DeMarvin Leal had a meeting of the minds at the quarterback.
Yeah.
Leal's another guy who I just thought, he wasn't always getting home with everything, but I just thought he too was getting penetration, being a disruptive force on the defensive line. I don't know. I just saw a lot of good stuff on the defense that I just really, really impressed with. I'll tell you what, Herbig, he's quick, and he showed it at camp when I was there. I just realized, I was like, boy, we've been seeing from that guy. That guy really is quick. He's quick off the ball. His moves are really fast. And that's why I think, some people say, well, he's kind of undersized for an edge rusher, blah, blah, blah. I think he's just so quick, so fast, and his techniques are very good that the fact that he might be giving up a little more weight or something somewhere doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to recant something that I said a while ago because I did not expect it to be this way. Is I said, when you think about it, if the Steelers have that really good, solid 3-man rotation inside linebacker, and they have someone like DeMarvin Leal that could fill out there, and now even occasionally standing up Isaiah Loudermilk, I said, don't be shocked if Nick Herbig doesn't get a helmet early in the season or much at all. There's not only, being a fourth-round draft pick, we weren't worried about him making the team. But I just thought, kind of like the Buddy Johnson effect, that he, fourth-round draft pick, you're on the depth chart. When someone gets hurt, you'll be there. But until then, you just continue to develop. And you know what? A part of me is almost afraid that that's their mentality, and they might force that anyway. Now I see it based on his play. Now, things could change in 2 more games, that would be a mistake. He's a guy that I think can be out there and ready for you. Right now, you just got to get him also involved with special teams. And you don't have to play him a ton of snaps either. But he's going to come in, and you're not going to see, hopefully, a big drop-off. One thing I do want to see, again, more from Herbig is how is he against the run? Because he did well against the run on Friday.
Yes.
But he only played 4 snaps against the run. You know what I'm saying? So I would just like to see more of him and more against higher competition. And to me, that's one thing that I think would be an improvement coming up for this Saturday.
I got another question at the outside linebacker position.
Okay.
Was it me on Friday? I just felt Quincy Roche looked slow. Is he slow?
Where he looked slow was when he had the opportunity to went with I don't even know which quarterback it was at the time. It was on a bootleg. There was no one blocking him. He was out there and he let him run away from him. Are you thinking about a play like that one?
Yeah, but there were some other plays where it just felt the guy just looks slow. He doesn't look real quick or explosive.
He's not. I think Herbig's faster. I think Highsmith's faster. I think Watt's faster. Here's the other thing. I will tell you this. When you see the number 48, who you still think of, even though it's been a couple years? I think Bud Dupree. And boy, did that guy close. I still think of watching him in person in the playoffs, decapitate Matt Moore in Miami because he just closed so fast. That was not Quincy Roche on Friday. Now, is that just him all the time? I don't know because I haven't seen him with the Steelers other than when he was out there Friday for a while. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that very well could be it. So you know what? That's something to look at for this Saturday. So,
Sure.
So yeah. Real quick, anything with the offensive line? I mean, we talked about Kendrick Green a little bit, kind of blowing it. Spencer Anderson got some snaps at center finally in practice today because of Nate Herbig being out, but he's once again, they say he's considered day to day. So I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see him in this preseason game, but I don't think it's anything that's going to impact the regular season.
Yeah. I'd probably agree there. Offensive line wise, I really didn't notice anything major, which is really probably what you're looking for when you talk about offensive line.
Yeah.
Not, like we know where there were some bad plays. Unfortunately, one guy had several, and that hurts.
Mhm.
Other than that, there are some small things in there to clean up. I know Broderick Jones was still needing to work on a couple of footwork
Well,
things.
he had that one really, really bad rep. One really
Yes.
bad rep. If you take away, if Kendrick Green's not on the field, that was the worst offensive line rep of anyone of the night. When he got pushed back, I think he didn't have his feet in the right place, and I think
Correct.
I think
He
both his
ca- he
feet and
didn't come-
hands were not in the right place. So he got
Correct.
pushed back, held, still gave up the strip sack, and everything. But once again, that's going to be Broderick Jones starting off. He's going to give you some other really great plays, and he's still going to have one of those occasionally. As you go, apparently he's just had, 2 great days of practice since the first game, which is great to hear. But that's the other thing that you have to think about them. It's not that you can see that he has the ability. The question is his fundamentals enough to have the consistency of that ability?
Yeah. Okay, I'd agree there.
Yeah. So, yeah, quarterback Tanner Morgan was not. Yeah, that was pretty. You think, oh, maybe he could push to where they could, trade or no. But it was. I mean, he hasn't got much practice reps, so we'll see if he gets another opportunity in any of the other games. But it was rough. Anything else? Defense, offense, otherwise? I know we're running out of time.
No, I'm fine with what I had to say about
Mm-hmm.
about what I felt going on with that game, and ready for Saturday game.
Yeah. So
I get to be there.
I know we're going to roll to that. I'm going to ask you one question because I said this on the post-game show, and I said the Steelers might eventually have to stop wasting their time with the Kendrick Green at fullback stuff going on at camp, because that only works if he can make the roster as an offensive lineman.
Yep.
Because if he can't make the roster as an offensive lineman, even so much so that he has to be one of your 8 to get a helmet, then it's not worth your time. That's why the Steelers several years ago, a couple snaps used Henry Mondeau at fullback, because he was depth at another position, was on the field, was dressed, and you could just put him out there and it would be okay. You can't do that if he's not going to make the team as an offensive lineman. And personally, I took him off my 53-man roster this past, because I thought Spencer Anderson did nice wherever he was playing. And I'm like, I would much rather have a Spencer Anderson than a Kendrick Green.
Yeah. I don't know. What infuriated me the most was he had the holding call, which he then turned to the referee and complained about. That's one thing. But then to turn around on the very next play and that snap not be anywhere near the quarterback, that's when I'm like, you just took a bad thing, and instead of putting it behind you, you dwelled on it and made it worse.
Yeah, and we'll see. And the thing with him, and I don't want to dwell on him too much because we've really got to get going, is last year we saw him in the preseason playing guard, which I still think was a big mistake. Because if he was going to be anything on the offensive line, he had what the Steelers look for in a center. The only reason he moved to guard is if he can't play center. To me, if he can't play center, he can't play in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he was trying to win the spot against Dotson at guard, and that didn't happen. And we hadn't seen Kendrick Green playing center for the Steelers since week 16 of 2021, because he missed the last 2 games of the regular season and didn't play in the playoffs. That's the last time Steelers fans saw him playing center. And the question was, hey, he's been with the team. He's been practicing. We don't see him. It doesn't mean that he's not getting any better. That's what you do. You work hard at practice and you get better. The first time you have him out there at center again, that's what fans saw. in a game. I mean, unless people were at training camp. So to me, that was the big question is, wow, did he take a big step to where now he could be a viable backup? And you just didn't see that right there. Saturday, you were there, correct?
I am there.
You will be there. So you enjoy your time. I will be watching at home. I will be doing the post-game show and things of that nature. So anything overall, since we talked about some individual stuff that we wanted to see how to improve on that first preseason performance by kind of recapping it, anything overall you want to say overarching?
In terms of Saturday night, really just want to see us continue to do things and I don't want to say, I'll just say expand on what we saw last week.
Yeah.
Just continue to show forward momentum, and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dave's gone.
No, I'm here. Are you there? I am frozen. I'm not sure what happened because you're frozen on me. Is it me?
Who knows?
Okay. Because if you can hear me, I was going to bring this up because it said from Alex Forrest, you guys streaming on another channel on YouTube. We are streaming on our channel, which the name changed to the channel to the Steel Curtain Network. For those of you that are just coming back now, during training camp and preseason, they'll be like, hey, what's going on? There was a lot of changes with things on the podcast side because basically almost every 90% of podcasts were let go at our former outlet. So we started our own and brought everybody that wanted to with us to create Fans First Sports Network. And that is now even where we are on the editorial side at steelcurtainnetwork.com, which is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Did you catch any of that, Rich?
No.
So, no. All right. Well, I'm hoping the live chat would tell me whether it's you or me that's cutting out, because they're probably only getting one of us.
That's all right.
But we got to do the big question, and if they tell us, we can then know which one of us has to read these at the end. So, Rich, what is your score prediction for Saturday night?
The preseason is a bigger, just shot in the dark than during the regular season. So I'm going to go with,
and like that, we have Rich is no longer with us. Boy, he left us hanging. So I was wondering, I thought I was fine. I thought my connection was okay. So if Rich comes back in, we will get his score. But if not, I'm just going to now put it out in the live chat for you all. We did not do scores on the Steelers preview Thursday night. Rich is coming back in right now. It was you. What's your score?
Steelers 20, Bills 23.
Oh, so you're going that the Steelers got their W in the preseason. If you listen to last week's Stat Geek, teams actually do better going 0-3 than they do 3-0 last year. It was crazy. So that's what it was. So that's, you have 23-20 with it being Buffalo. Now, when you put your score in the live chat, if you don't put any team, we assume you mean Steelers. So here we go. We've got the things flying on here really fast. We've got Afton Forward saying 21-17 for Afton and Kathy. I really hope that the Steelers win. Steelers Pittsburgh. I think that was the same score as last week, if it actually comes up. 2020. Eric Cole says Steelers 24-17. BF Bud has 30-24 Steelers. I'd love to see that 30. I really would. That would be a nice one, or even 31. I'm going to go with my score prediction. See, but Buffalo's good. I'm going to go 27-20 Steelers, what I want to go. Because Jeremiah Yoder wanted to know. Sorry. That's just for you, Jeremiah. George Rice says 31-21. Steelers Nation Australia, Marky D says Steelers 8, Bills 7. They go for the 2, but because they don't want to tie, because there's no overtime in preseason. Pittsburgh Toddy says 23-21 good guys. Brian Brown says 21-20 Steelers. Gabriel Golden says 25-23 Steelers. Daredevil says 24-21 good guys. Frosty the Bear says 26-19 Bills. Okay. Carrie says 28-21 Steelers. Mr. Brooks says 34-17 Steelers. Gene Smith says 27-21 Buffalo. Sherry Richards says 27-23 Steelers. Richard Adamson says 34-28 Steelers. Blue Nose Steelhead says 30-17 Steelers. I have to slow down when I say that name or else I mess it up. Reginald Rivers says 27-20 Steelers. Where'd it go? Joseph Donovan says 27-24 Steelers. Jeremiah Yoder says 31-20 Steelers. Dennis C says 21-21. Tom I usually have this right. Vallejo. I messed that one up. Vallejo. I tried to throw an extra syllable in there. 20-17 Steelers. Clarence Dudley Jr. says 24 Steelers, 27 Bills. Here we go. Let's see what else we got. Ruben Stone says 23-16 Steelers. Tyler W says 28-27 Steelers. Remember this, it'll be interesting to see how much both of these teams play their starters, because I'd like to see a good matchup. Kevin Brokenborough says 24-10 Steelers. Let's see. Do I have another one? Mark Tobin says 24-13 Steelers. John Funker says 30-13 Steelers. And I know it's the preseason, which means it doesn't matter as much the final score. Brian Brown said this great. He said the awesome thing is it doesn't matter if the Steelers lose. These games are all about getting in sync for the real games. Exactly. So the score now isn't as important. But what we're doing with you all is we're giving you practice. That's what we're doing. We've got to do it. We've got to give you all, and I'm trying to find it here. Where did it go? Oh, there it is.
We're talking about practice.
Yeah, we're giving you practice and predicting your scores during the preseason. So when the regular season rolls around, you don't have to be you're a little bit more ready for it. So, Rich, I'm excited. Tell me one thing that you want to see more than anything, like any one thing from one person on Saturday night. Kind of it could be a bold, almost like a bold prediction of something you think you might see before you give me your final thoughts.
Bold prediction. Let me just say, just something I want to see. I'd love to run into Kathy and Ashton at the game. There you go.
There you go. That's great.
There you go. Yeah. Would love to see him. I will be there donning my bright yellow Steel Curtain Network T-shirt on Saturday. So,
all right. So, what do you have to say here to close us out tonight?
Hey, looking back to last Friday, to me it was a good starting point for the Pittsburgh Steelers season. It was exactly where I hoped they would be. It looked more like a continuation of what we were seeing last year towards the end of the year, and moving forward. Not a lot of movement, stepping back. Now the hope is just to continue to see that same type of thing. Keep things pressing forward for the Steelers. Buffalo's going to be a little different measuring stick than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were. And that's okay. In the end, I'm not as super worried about the score as I am worried about the play, because honestly, if the Steelers have the lead and, the fourth stringers give up a touchdown at the end and the Steelers lose the game, big whoop.
Yep.
So, that happens. For me, what I'm most excited about, Me, my wife, Acrisure Stadium, checking things out Saturday night. Can't wait.
Can't wait.